Hi everybody, today we will be talking about time and space management in the classroom. In this presentation, we will talk about three very important aspects of teachers that affect the outcomes in the classroom. First, we will talk about the teacher's physical presence. Then we will talk about the way we use our voice in the classroom. And finally, we will talk about the way we organize the classroom. Let's begin with the teacher's physical presence. This is related to the way the teacher moves, stands, and expresses his or her feelings. So this topic could be divided into 4 smaller subtopics. The first one is proximity. Proximity is related to how close a teacher works with her or his students. So being too close is never good. Being too far is also not good. The teacher's proximity must find a balance. What this means is that you should allow students to be a little independent and work on their activities, but you can't be too relaxed where you're not even being aware of what the students are doing. The teacher must be able to find a balance. The second subtopic is appropriacy. This is related to the way students will be working. Some activities need the teacher as the leader and other activities require independent work. So for some activities, the teacher needs to stand in front of the classroom and guide the class. But for some other activities, it's the students who must be in charge of the activity. Some activities require teachers to lean over to assist students. Sometimes teachers have to sit on the floor. Sometimes teachers sit at the edge of the desks. And finally, sometimes some activities require teachers to crouch down. It is good to get involved with your students, especially if they're kids. They like to see you at their level. They like to see you on the floor. They like to see you crouching down and things like that. Our next subtopic is called movement. This is related to how the teacher moves around the classroom. Standing in one place, the whole class can bore students. So it's good for teachers to move side to side, stand in different places of the classroom, or move up or down. This can be done in every class that you have, but you have to be very careful not to overdo the moving, because if you move too much, then you might distract your students and they won't be focusing on what you're saying, but they will be focusing on your movement. So you have to once again find a balance. Finally, we will talk about contact. It is very important to make eye contact. It is also very important to listen to your students. It is very nice when a teacher answers their students appropriately, but intimate contact is never acceptable. Now, to talk a little bit about intimate contact, we mentioned that is unacceptable. So being too close to the students is never good. Touching them too much is never good. This can put you in uncomfortable positions. So it's always good to avoid any type of intimate contact. Remember, you are the teacher, they are the students. You must respect them, and surely they will respect you. So that was all we were going to mention about the teacher's physical presence. Let's move to using our voice in the classroom. Once again, we have 3 smaller subtopics. We have audibility, variety, and conservation. Each one is really important, so we will take a couple of minutes to explain in detail. Let's begin with audibility. This is related to how loud or soft teachers speak. So teachers must always make sure all the students hear. If you're standing in the front of the classroom, you must make sure not only the front row or the middle of the classroom is listening to you, but also the kids or the students that sit at the back, that they can also be hearing everything that you're saying. This is very important. Teachers should always avoid shouting. Let's move to our next subtopic, variety. Teachers must vary their tone depending on the activity they are working on with the class. For stories, it's different. For teaching a lesson about grammar, we use a different tone. For doing a game, we use a different tone. We must always keep this in mind. A monotone tone can be very boring, and a loud tone can be aggressive. Finally, we're going to talk about conservation a little bit. It is very important for teachers to take care of their voice because the voice is our instrument. This is how we transmit the different messages and the different information to our students. So we must learn how to breathe properly. We must always breathe and put the pressure on our stomach muscles and never on our throat. And like we mentioned before, we should always avoid shouting. Okay, so far we have talked about the teacher's physical presence in the classroom. We have talked about using our voice in the classroom, and now finally we are going to talk about some different ways a teacher can organize their classroom to help make some activities easier. So how can teachers organize the classroom? There are many ways in which teachers can organize their classroom, but this depends on the number of students and, of course, the activity that we will be working on. So if I have a big number of students and a small classroom, the way I organize my classroom is going to be a little bit more limited than if I have a small number of students. And also this will depend on what kind of activity I am working with my students on. Some seating arrangements are, for example, separate tables. This one has some particular advantages and disadvantages. Some advantages of having kids or students work with separate tables is that they will become more independent. Also, it breaks up your group into smaller groups, so it's easier for the teacher to go around and explain something to a table. Let's say if you have 4 different tables in your classroom, it's easier for a teacher to go around the 4 tables explaining than going around each desk doing a personal explanation to each student. Now, some of the disadvantages of this seating arrangement can be that sometimes the students don't want to be seated beside somebody else. They might want some alone time, or they might not get along with the person they are sitting beside. The next seating arrangement is called the circle. The circle also has some advantages and disadvantages. Some of the students might have their back to the teacher, so it's not always to have them using this seating arrangement when we're trying to explain a lesson to the whole class. You have to be very selective of what kind of activities this seating arrangement is good for. Our next seating arrangement is the horseshoe. This is a very beneficial seating arrangement, especially when you have a big group and a big class, because this way all the students are facing the teacher, but at the same time they are beside a classmate in case they have some questions or they don't understand something or they didn't hear what the teacher was saying. Our last seating arrangement is called orderly rows. So this is our most common seating arrangement in schools. This seating arrangement allows students to be independent. But for teachers, it might be a little bit more complicated to go around explaining to each person individually. So this seating arrangement is perfect for quizzes, for tests, for book work, for example. Which seating arrangement is the best? I can't say. This depends on the number of students and on the activity. Okay, that will be it for today. Thank you very much for listening.